Welcome to the Horror and Gore Horror Movie Podcast, your number one podcast for all things horror. I'm your host, Big Goobs, and of course, I am always joined by my friend and co-host, Dakota. How are you, Dakota?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Goobs?
Doing good. And if you are looking at our YouTube version, you see that we have a special guest here. And not only is he just a special guest, he is one of the most fantastic creators of small budget independent films. You may know some of them as the punk rock skateboard slasher known as The Summer We Died. Also, an alien film that has some of the best jump scares since Signs, in my opinion, in split screen. And of course, the man behind the legend, Tahoe Joe, Mr. Dillon Brown. How are you doing, sir? Thank you for joining.
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me.
It's been a long time coming, so definitely glad for you to be here and us to finally chat in face to face.
I'm honored. I'm super excited to hang with you guys tonight.
Gonna go pretty much jump right into it. What did we watch this week, Dakota?
Okay, so I just watched two films. Of course, they're Mr. Dillon Brown's films. I finally watched The Summer We Died, and I watched Split Screen.
And then I guess we can have you go, Dillon, if you've watched anything this week.
You know, I did watch the new Naked Gun movie, and that was hilarious. I'm a big fan of the spoof stuff, and I really like that they held really true to that. And then I went back, rewatched one of my favorite movies of all time. I've seen it a million times, but I always throw it on. John Carpenter's The Fog, just one of my all-time favorite campfire tale movies, and that was probably the last thing I put on.
Yes, kind of the same with Dakota. I had quite a few watches, but they all revolve around you, good sir. I rewatched Tahoe Joe 1 and 2. I also dug a little deeper and went into The Flock.
Oh, boy.
And as well, just finished up Split Screen. And it's been a great week of watching. So definitely excited to jump into a few things. But before we jump into that, Dakota, you have a big piece of news. You want to jump right into that?
So you guys heard last week that me and Goobs got accepted to remote press for Fantastic Fest. It was around Wednesday or Thursday. They dropped the lineup. We got over 75 movies so far for this festival. But the big ones that they have announced was The Black Phone 2, which is one of my most anticipated horror movies of this year. Whistle, the new Shudder IFC release. Sisu 2, which I'm excited to see that. I like the first one. Then after that, we got one that I don't know how I feel about because I didn't like the first chapter, and that is The Strangers Chapter 2.
There's quite a bit all over different genres, and it's one of the biggest film festivals, and it's good honor that Dakota and I have to cover it. So we'll bring you all the up-to-date news when we get it. So definitely look out for that. Let's just jump into our main topic, and that is Mr. Dillon Brown. So I just wanted to ask you right up front, if that's all right, and just how did you get into wanting to do films and especially gravitate to the horror genre?
You know, I've always loved horror. I was always like a monster kid. Hung around the video store all the time. I worked in one that was like my first real job. And I was obsessed with VHS box art. So if I saw something cool, I was like, I have to see it. And there's like 9 times out of 10, the box art was way cooler than the movie, but it didn't matter. I just wanted to see the next one. But I started off as a writer. I wrote and published like 7 books, and I love writing. It's a lot of fun. It's like really cathartic for me. It's a good kind of relaxing thing. But there's something about filmmaking and telling stories visually that just gives you like instant gratification, because with writing, I'm not necessarily going to go back and read my own books. It's tough to do that. But with the film stuff, I have to watch all the footage like over and over again, and I'm watching it come together visually, and it gives me this rush. I think coming up with an idea on paper, and then making it come to life in front of the camera. And horror is just, to me, and it's just like, it's such a reflection of like the current times. It's like you can look at any decade and you can kind of see what's going on in the world, politically or socially, because horror always seems to kind of reflect those things. And I just love monster movies. And so once when COVID hit and I had a lot of time, I worked for the Army, and so the base was kind of shut down, and we didn't really know what to do. And I had a lot of free time on my hands, and so I grabbed a cell phone and I went out into the desert one day. I thought, well, that's a good way to socially distance. I can go out into the desert and I'll create something. And so I made a little Tremors fan film, put it on YouTube, and of all things, I posted it on Twitter, and Bloody Disgusting like did an article about it. Just like randomly, they saw it, they posted about it, and it took my YouTube views from 80 views to 8,000 views. And I'm like, whoa, like people are seeing my stuff. This is really cool. And I had so much fun doing it. I just decided let's just keep going bigger and bigger each time. And, here we are 5 years later, and co-founded the Horror Dadz with my buddies Josh Brucker and Michael Rock, Hunter Nino, and Matt Van Bodegraven. And I think we've probably all collectively, we've probably put out 14 or 15 films in that 5 year span. And I've done 7 of them, I think, myself. And it's just been, it's been a wild ride.
Wow. That's awesome. You can just tell when you look at your films and kind of going through one by one and just seeing the progression and seeing just the amount of care that you take, you can tell that you're somebody who has been a part of or has had horror in your veins through the very beginning, and just the attention to detail. And like you said, your love of monster movies and stuff, it definitely shows.
Oh, that's good. I love hearing that. That's such a good compliment, because I've always said maybe the movies aren't for everybody. Maybe they don't have the best acting. Maybe they don't have the best, effects. But if somebody can pick up on at least my love of what I'm doing, then, that's a big win for me. Because some people agree and some people disagree with my stance on this, but I don't make movies for movie watchers. I make movies for me first. I feel like if I'm going to be the one putting my time and heart and soul into it, then it's going to be for me first and the way I want it. And then if people like it, that's the bonus, right? But I'm never one to just let me make a movie because I think other people will like it. I think I'd just be doing a disservice to myself if I did it that way.
Okay, so Dillon, this was my biggest theme, because me and you first met over Tahoe Joe. What was the concept behind Tahoe Joe and how that film was made?
So living up here by Lake Tahoe, I live in Reno, so we go to Tahoe all the time, and there's a lot of Bigfoot stories up in this part of that part of Northern California. I'm on the Nevada side, but I think people forget how close we are. It takes me 35 minutes and I'm across the California border. So a lot of Bigfoot stuff in the Sierra Nevadas. And so I just kind of always, for a long time, thought it'd be fun to make a Bigfoot movie. But I didn't know how to tackle it and I've seen a lot of Bigfoot movies, and I'm not going to beat around the bush. Most of them are tough to watch. There's some really bad ones out there. And I didn't really want to make a bad Bigfoot movie. So I thought, how could I make something on a really, really tiny budget that's not really a bad Bigfoot movie, but it's not going to be Exist, because I don't have, that kind of money either. So I thought the best way to handle it would be to do a fake documentary. So I asked Mike Rock, he and I had just done The Flock together. That's when we first met. And I asked him, hey, I got this idea. Are you down? And at first he was like, Bigfoot, I think he was thinking I wanted to make a traditionally shot movie. And he just was pretty apprehensive. And so I knew I got to win this guy over. So I filmed the opening, the first 5 minutes, just to kind of show him the vibe I was going for, to be it's going to have this very docu-style feel. So I shot that and I sent it to him, and he's like, whoa, I didn't know you were going to do it this way. I love this, man. I'm down. I'm 100% down. And then, man, we just hit the ground running. We were just riffing off each other. And Mike was in Texas filming some of his stuff at the time because he was away on work. And we were doing everything virtually, and it was just coming together so well. And it was kind of one of those movies where like I didn't necessarily know where it was going to go because we didn't script it. We just sort of had like a little bit of an outline, and then we just went out into the woods and we're like, let's just have fun and see where it goes. And basically, the second half of Tahoe Joe, when we go into the woods with the guy Shane, that from that point on, we did all that in one night. It was a single shoot, and I was actually doing edits live from the woods. Like I was dropping footage into place and kind of editing it as we were going, so I could keep on track because we didn't want to lose like where we were and mess up any plot points. So it was just a surreal, kick-ass experience, really, and just like a total experiment. And at first I thought this was fun, and it didn't really cost that much money. I think we spent like $800 to make the movie. And I thought, if it doesn't pan out, it's a really cool thing. We can show family and friends. Maybe it doesn't get picked up by distribution, and it took a little while to get somebody to bite. And then we got it out there, and it hit Tubi. And then it's just like it exploded. I had so many people, watching it and coming to us, sending messages, sending emails, that they really loved what we did. And it's probably like my biggest confidence booster as a filmmaker that like, we didn't have much money, but we did what we could with it. And I think it just one of those movies that like caught a life of its own, and it just took off. And I just kind of followed the wave, man. It was interesting.
My other question was, because you filmed the first one, did you already have an idea in mind for the second one? Or was that after the big blow up on like Tubi?
Yeah, that was after. Honestly, there was really no plans to do a sequel. We just figured like, let's just do it. We'll see where it goes. I'll go do some other things after this. And hey, if anything, I made my Bigfoot movie I always wanted to do, whatever. No big deal if it's not a hit. But it's just like immediately we were getting hit with people saying, what's with the sirens at the end? Like, what was all that stuff with the conspiracy? Like, we want to know more. And me and Mike are like, oh, yeah, okay. Now we got to figure out what are we going to do? Where are we going to go with this? And we had a lot of fun doing the second movie by kind of really playing with that meta aspect of the first movie being released and then like what we had been doing since then. And then obviously like we got a little more money to put together for that one. So we did bigger set pieces and we had a much better Joe costume. So we thought, how do we, and spoiler alert, the movie's been out for long enough. I'm going to talk about the ending, but it's like, how do we show that difference between Joe's look from the first movie and the second? And so we thought, what if we play into that conspiracy? And when you watch the second movie, you realize we never even saw Joe in the first movie. We saw these guys in suits that were up there scaring people off the mountain. And then real Joe shows up in the second one when you find out that, these poachers were up there and that's whose territory we were in originally. And so we were like, let's have fun with this conspiracy angle and really roll with it. And I think shooting in the snow just helped a lot. And, it's like everything about Tahoe Joe 2 just felt so much bigger. And then, of course, when we went to go do 3, where I'm sure our conversation will inevitably go, same thing, right? We had no plans to do a third, but the online response was so positive that we're like, let's just finish this thing off and let's go as big as we possibly can. And, man, I had so much fun making part 3, and I'm so excited to get that one out there so everybody can kind of see this thing come full circle. It's just been such a fun time.
One of the things I wanted to mention about the second one, I love the aspect of going in the snow. I don't know what it is. It just felt, one, it's beautiful shooting in the snow and just the mountains and the terrain you're in. It was beautiful. And then the conspiracy aspect of it, when you first watch, you're just like, this isn't your, like you said, this isn't your traditional Bigfoot type movie. This is just a totally different concept. And when you transfer it into that and go back to the first one, you're just like, oh, this wasn't Tahoe Joe at all. And then it plays more into that. And I just thought it was super well done. And I love the fact when you do make your movies, not just the Tahoe Joes, but most of them, they all kind of play into one another in some sort of way. And do you plan to do that, or does it just kind of happen? Like when you're setting up to do a film, does it always have that in the back of your mind, like this could go into this and fit into this section, and that sort of thing within your progression of filmmaking?
Yeah, so like The Flock, and then the movie we did that was a follow-up to that, Ghost. Those were kind of just their own things, but we had fun sneaking in little Easter eggs. But the Tahoe Joe films are part of what me and the Horror Dadz call the Cryptidverse. So Josh Brucker did a Mothman movie, and then another movie called The Woodman, and then Split Screen with the alien aspect in Grays. All those are connected in like a universe we call the Cryptidverse. And so a lot of those films, they don't necessarily have like a hardcore crossover, but we like to do just enough to show that they are all kind of like, they belong in the same world together. So we're always conscious of like what somebody else did in their film, so we can find a way to kind of fit the puzzle pieces together. But we don't necessarily go into it with like the plot having to be really, really hinging on that. We just find little ways to drop hints, and we figure if people see all the movies, they'll start to pick them up. But we don't really want to be like in your face with it either, because I think then people start picking it apart and trying to figure out where the timeline fits. And, even though we have an idea of how it all kind of goes together, I think it's more fun just to let people pick up on it on their own as they're watching our stuff.
Said I picked up on it going through, and even when you go back earlier and you're just like, oh, this is kind of there. And
mm-hmm.
It's just a nice subtle way to show, hey, that you take pride in what you do from the start of your career all the way through, and just there's that aspect of it. So I really like that as a viewer.
It's fun to tell that story too as a storyteller, because maybe there's something from a previous film I didn't really love, but it's cool when I'm making another one, maybe 2 or 3 films down the line, and I've learned more, we've upgraded equipment, and it's just like a fun little way to kind of like either retcon something or add to the lore of something else and just kind of build upon it.
You were talking about this whole like cryptiverse. I noticed that at the beginning of Tahoe Joe 2. And in the region I live in, we have a lot of cryptids. And like you said that your friend made the Mothman movie. Have you guys ever thought about making a Goatman movie?
It's so funny. Hunter, who's one of our Horror Dadz guys, he was behind a little anthology that's available on POV Horror. It's an app, like a streaming app that focuses on found footage stuff, and it's called Urban Nightmares. And there's a filmmaker that did a segment for his anthology in that film, and he actually did a Goatman segment for it. So it's kind of funny that you bring that up. It's not a cryptid that I was familiar with, but Connor, he made his little short, and it was kind of, he did a good job of not knowing where it was going, but yes, he definitely has a Goatman in it. And so yeah, there is one that's kind of in the same universe. Not anything that we did collectively as the Dads, but we brought in, like I say, an outside director that brought one to the table. So that was kind of cool.
I just wanted to touch on one little piece, because I've always wondered, and anytime we talk about a smaller independent movie, and one of the big things that you've already touched on, the acting sometimes can be a little shaky here and there. I wanted to touch on a couple of things. One, I love what you do with how you hire your talent and your actors, with it being first responders, veterans, and just to help with PTSD. I freaking love that aspect of everything. So anytime that I do a review or talk about it, I always like to chime that in and just say, these aren't going to be your blockbusters, but this is what filmmaking and independent filmmaking is all about, and supporting one another within the community. And I wanted to also ask, there's a tidbit in Tahoe Joe 2 where there's an actual comment that you put up there about, and it's a real nasty negative comment. You're like, some emo chick didn't like this. Was that a real actual comment that you put in the movie from a person?
Yeah, so that's a real one that Mike pulled from Letterboxd. This lady just like eviscerated the movie. She's hated it so much, and she's like claiming that we were trying to make it real and fool everybody, and it was clearly fake. And I'm like, okay, first of all, nobody's gonna fake anybody out since Blair Witch. Like that whole gimmick's up. Welcome to the world of found footage. Like, it's supposed to make you feel that way, but it's not real. But we wanted to have a little fun, because I always feel like audience members feel so free to just like rip apart a movie. And it always feels like the filmmaker is supposed to just sit back and take it. And I'm like, I get it. We put our stuff out there. We're obviously putting ourselves in a vulnerable state, but we're allowed to have a little fun and clap back. And so it was kind of fun to take that shot back. We took a little hate from people for doing that too, as if it was the worst thing ever to do that. But, I'm like, you know what? We didn't name names. We blurred out pictures, but I'm going to call people out. And we do it again in part 3. I have a little fun with taking a couple of shots here and there, but it's all in good fun. It's like, if people are going to be very open about not liking my stuff, then I'm going to say I don't like your review, and I'll go ahead and tell you about
it. I love that, because when it first popped up, I just had a good laugh, so I just had to ask. And then I guess that kind of goes into the next thing. So you don't necessarily hate the hate that you get, because you kind of feed off of it and like to poke back and just kind of go that route. But I wanted to ask, do you take those type of things and does it kind of bother you a little bit, where you try to, somebody kind of goes, not necessarily just the hate, but the constructive part of it? Do you kind of go into your next projects thinking, okay, well, this is kind of what people had noticed that maybe I didn't, so do you kind of focus on that a little bit, or do you just say, I make movies for me, and if you like it, cool, if not, cool, kind of thing?
It's like 50-50, because your last part there, I do make them for me 100%, but I would be lying if I don't say that really good positive feedback and constructive criticism is totally welcome. Like I'm not a huge, this always shocks people, but I make found footage movies, but I'm not necessarily the biggest found footage fan. It's like, if I work at Domino's, I don't necessarily want to eat Domino's pizza. I'll probably go eat pizza from somewhere else. I'm around it all the time, right? Yeah. And so, for me, it is nice if I'm talking to really hardcore fans and I start to pick up on kind of the stuff that they're expecting and things that, the genre has to offer that maybe I haven't delivered yet. So I definitely take those things and say, how can I mold those to my style? And I got to keep the viewership going. It's how I keep, making money and can keep making the movies. But yeah, then there's the other side where if somebody's super harsh, it does bug me. It's human nature to take those things a little personal. And but the funniest thing I've ever had happen was the first movie I ever made, absolutely catastrophic nightmare, called The Devil's Children. I put it out there, and I got an email from a guy who was so mad at me for making a really cool movie poster, but he hated the movie. And apparently it was my fault that I ruined his hour and 5 minutes for watching this movie. And he sent me an email that said, I know it by heart. Mr. Brown, next time you make a movie, you should put the camera up your ass, because that would be a better watch than what I watched with The Devil's Children.
Oh my
And I thought about framing it and just like using it as motivation, for my next stuff. And that one always cracks me up. And it was so harsh and so ridiculous that I was like, ouch, but damn it, that was funny. And, I immediately jumped into The Flock, which has multiple problems in my eyes. I'm always going to be super harsh on my own stuff. But I feel like the jump from The Flock, or from The Devil's Children to The Flock, was huge. And you can probably attribute a lot of that to, me taking those comments to heart and saying, okay, bro, like, you did it, now up your game.
I kind of want to get into your next movie, which I just watched today, and that is The Summer We Died. So I heard a lot of mutuals like Ian, Colby, Goobs even watched it before, about this slasher skateboard punk movie. And after watching it, I really enjoyed it. I like what you did. You showed what it's like to be a punk rock kid and just have fun during the summer. But before we get into the very ending, I like what Goop said. You bring a lot of your actors back into this movie, and I know some actors from your other movies in this, and I enjoy that, because when I watch a movie, especially from the same director, I'd rather have that chemistry with the actor that I already know on the screen than just somebody new.
Yeah, but it helps me a lot to do that.
I guess just as a whole comment, I love that you, throughout your filmography and what you've done, you kind of have multiple different subgenres within your films. Like you have the cult aspect of it with The Flock. You have the slasher aspect and genre with The Summer He Died. And of course the cryptid creature feature of Tahoe Joe, and even the alien slash it kind of, the second part of Split Screen kind of plays off like a mockumentary style of and like a true crime documentary of I can't even remember the town of it is, but the murder tapes on there. So you're very well versed in just the different styles and subgenres within horror, which I really enjoy. But yeah, we can jump into a little further into The Summer We Died, because that was honestly my intro to you. And that's when I actually first got to talking to you. And that was when I first really started making content. So we can definitely jump into that, Dakota, whenever you're ready.
I want to talk about the ending, because your twist at the end was something that shocked me. Because during this whole entire movie, I'm thinking Mike Rock's character is going to be the killer at the very end. But when you find out it's the 3 teenage girls that have done it the whole entire time, I'm like, he took something very like common, like kind of like a whodunit, but he put a twist on it. And I just sat there for a couple minutes after the movie. I'm like, he done very good with this.
Well, that's like the highest compliment you can pay, because that was my big thing, was like, I had to stick the landing. The twist was written first. I kind of wrote that story backwards, and like everything, had to lead up to that. And that was the big moment we had to pull off. But it was really trying to figure out what's their motivation, why are they doing it? And I didn't want to make a traditional slasher where they were doing it out of some kind of, nefarious reason, or, it wasn't like Scream where it was, like their friends were doing it because they're obsessed with horror movies. Nothing like that. I wanted to figure out, like, how do I make them still the heroes, even though they're kind of the, the villain here. And a lot of that has to do with Mike. We were talking back and forth about how we were going to make that work. And Mike was the one that actually came up with the idea. And he said, what if, your girls have been doing it the whole time, and we were always going to have the people that they were taking out were going to be bad guys, but we were trying to figure out, like, what are they doing? And so we thought, what's more perfect than like white supremacist Nazis? That you don't really know that that's who those people are until the end, when you start putting the pieces together, that the whole time when the movie's playing and you're hearing all those radio broadcasts, they're reporting finding bodies and stuff, but the radio broadcaster's actually reporting the bodies from the year prior of all the kids, the minority kids that were being killed by the white supremacist guys. I just looped that radio footage over them being killed to kind of throw the audience for a loop, thinking it was about them. And so then at the end, when you get that montage of all those kids, and you realize that they were friends of those girls, and that white supremacist group had been behind it. And now this summer, these girls are on this kind of revenge tour, which was kind of how I played it out. It's like they go to the punk rock show, and what are rock shows? They're on a tour. So I thought, what if these girls are on kind of their own tour here, and they're on this last summer together, and they're just picking these guys off, one by one, until they get up to that leader of that group. And once that's done, they can leave town, because they feel like, they've accomplished that revenge spree that they needed to go on. And we just needed to make those people hated. And so it was really cool to make a cool skater punk movie where they're basically bashing, Nazi heads in with skateboards and stomping people out and everything else. And it was so much fun, man. I had so much fun casting my friends as the bad guys, and getting to see them all kind of typecast totally, or not typecast, but cast against type, by putting like Mike. Mike's always been the hero in my stuff. So It was really fun to get to put him in a role where he played something totally, totally different.
I noticed that within your movies, Mike is always that badass, that hero. And I love, and this is just a random, while watching like The Flock and then also Tahoe Joe, I love your camera work when you flip to those POV and like, Mike's cam or ghost cam, and like I love that. And then even in the flock at the end, when all hell breaks loose and just the POVs of the shootouts and everything like that. And Mike's just a badass throughout your film. So having it switch like that was good, because it just shows the, I don't want to say diversity, but kind of like the diversity within your approach on, it doesn't matter who's usually the hero or whatnot. You can always find a way to untype them, like you said.
Yeah. It was fun to kind of push Mike's acting abilities a little bit too. And he doesn't have a lot of dialogue. A lot of his was, through kind of, facial expression and all that stuff. But it was really neat to just work in a different aspect. And, and then especially Mike goes fully clean shaven. Like nobody had ever seen Mike without the beard. So it was really kind of fun to do that too. And, it was a lot of fun. I mean, even I cast myself as one of the bad guys, and it was really cool to put us all in that kind of villain role when I was so used to not being that type. And, it's just, I got to push myself, I think, otherwise it gets stagnant. And, Summer We Died is my, it's my most personal film, and it's probably my favorite movie as far as like style, because I really went crazy with the editing and, did that fourth wall breaking and lots of music and colors and all that. And I had so much fun making that. But as fun as that was, it was really fun to switch gears and go back to, the Tahoe Joe universe for part 3, and then go back to that style. Cause I did realize that as fun as The Summer We Died was to work on, Mike and I just work so well when we're doing the buddy cop type stuff. And yeah, I think it's really evident in part 3, which, you guys have seen, and coming out October 1st on Found TV. It's just really evident, I think, our friendship and how much we gel together.
I love, like Dakota said prior, I love the chemistry that y'all show throughout all the Tahoe Joes and even your other movies. It just goes to show that it's not just a professional relationship. This is an actual friendship and an actual, you're not just a horror dad, you're actual friends. And it shows in your movies, and I enjoy the hell out of it.
Mike and I have always subscribed to the idea of we're just a couple of guys having fun making movies, and the minute that it stops being fun, we're not going to do it anymore, because for us, we've got our careers already set. So this is stuff we do on the side. And, the minute that I get stressed out making a movie, it's just not worth doing it anymore. So we just love to go out there and have fun. And anybody that's worked with us, I know Ian and Colby picked up on it. We run our sets like a brotherhood. It's just a fun time for everybody. And it's, we're both, Mike from a really, enlisted military background, and then me working in Army logistics on the civilian side, but still really have to subscribe to all of the Army ideals. And, we're sticklers. We want everything to be on time, and we want to try and get stuff done effectively. And, but we have a lot of fun out there, and we don't put pressure on actors and stuff. We just try to keep everything as lighthearted as possible.
It definitely transfers on screen, because like you said, you just a couple of guys that go out on the first one, a couple of guys going out with a camera and doing it all within the one shot, or not one shot, but one evening, you know what I mean? And just the progression through it still shows from the beginning to the end. And I'm not going to go too far into number 3, but you can just see, I don't want to say like the confidence in the storytelling, but you can see it ups the ante in every step of the way. And I can't wait for that to come out October 1st for everybody to see on Found TV. And just, it's just a great progression. And I don't want to say send off or whatever you want to call it. It's just fantastic to watch the progression, and I can't wait for everybody to see it.
Yeah, I definitely, that was like the main goal. We thought we're making a part 3 of a Bigfoot movie. We have to, it's already kind of ridiculous. Like, we have to really just have fun with it. We have to be self-aware. There's like, I think our whole mindset was, if we try and get too serious, it's going to come across like we're trying too hard. So let's have a lot of fun with it. So, we injected more humor and more action, more adventure. I think that part 3, watching it back when I was getting ready to get all my distribution files and stuff together, I just feel like the production value is just like much bigger in part 3. Like it definitely feels like our biggest installment by far as like how many locations, effects, how many people are involved, the scale of the story. Just a lot of fun to make.
You can definitely see it throughout even when I watched the trailer, I was just like, you kind of had that feeling like this is going to be epic. This is going to hit hard. And it totally did. So, and I appreciate, you allowing us to be a part of that, me and Dakota, and being here and allowing us to see it and experience it and just have this conversation. I definitely thank you.
Hey, I love being on here talking about it. It's so much fun.
So where Goose was talking about like progression, especially from 1 to 2 to 3. The thing it's in the trailers, so everyone knows about this. It's when you and Mike are together, and normally in the other movies, you guys are just filming it's the straight digital camera. But on this, it says the Joe Bros down the corner. Like you really go into the Joe Bros, and I really like that because kind of like what Goop said, you and Mike are already friends in real life, but as in these characters, you guys really show it, especially in this third movie. And that's I think what pulls the story forward, especially with what happens in this movie. It's so good because that's why I like in not only a horror movie, but just any movie, a good relationship between like main characters throughout the whole entire movie to build along with the story.
For us, it's like we know with limited budgets and all that and what we can pull off, characters and story are everything. And so it's like we knew that if we were going to get a lot of audience buy-in, we were going to have to be likable on screen. And even though we cut away to a lot of other characters and there's all that stuff going on, Mike and I just, we tried to spend as much time as we could saying, how do we really kind of cultivate the Joe Bros and show a little passage of time from the other movies and then kind of where they would be at. But also really kind of come across to everybody that we are not acting like friends. We are friends. And we're just kind of playing fictionalized versions of our real friendship. Mike's essentially like a big brother to me now. And so it's like when I get to shoot with him, we are so on the same wavelength that we can be going with nothing scripted and we're just going and it's just going back and forth so easy. And, sometimes we'll have light bulb moments and we'll stop and go, oh yeah, let's shoot that again. Cause that'd be a better way to do that. But it's just like, it is really like working with my best friend or my brother. And so it's just like, it's a cakewalk, there's nothing about it that's hard.
Like I said, and it transfers on screen.
Like you were talking about that with you and Mike, but you were talking about like it's a brotherhood on set. That's one thing that Colby and Ian told us when they came back from filming with you and Mike, that you guys were just out there having fun of filming a movie, and like it shows in all your movies, which this is why I think if people like Bigfoot movies and found footage movies, like I said before, they're already good. But if you want an independent horror movie that feels like people care about it and putting effort into it, people need to see it, not just like somebody that just throws something together and just puts out there just to get a movie out there.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Tahoe Joe is one of those things that, we can go do a bunch of I can go do Summer We Dieds and Mike can do Ruck March and Murder the Monster and all that stuff. But it's always going to come back to, Tahoe Joe as far as like the fans kind of recognizing what we're known from. So we just had to embrace that we're going to be the Bigfoot guys. We wanted to make a definitive end chapter, and we've been pretty vocal that this is the last movie in the franchise because we just don't want to overstay the welcome. So, there's no spoilers there. There's definitely the true ending to it all. But we didn't do it just because we felt like people wanted it. Absolutely, it was an absolute push from fans to go ahead and do something, but we weren't going to do it if we didn't believe that we could do it right that way. And, it felt like part 2 kind of wrapped everything up great, but we were just talking and we're like, we have one more story in us, and let's find a way to kind of flip the script and not do it the same way. We'll give people familiarity, but we'll also really push this thing into some new territory. And it was just so much fun to kind of, like I say, take the story and flip it on its head and bring Joe, to the concrete wilderness this time. And it just opened up a whole new world of storytelling. So I can't wait to get it out there.
Before we get on to what your later project is, Dillon, that you're working on, I want to talk about Split Screen, because you and who directed this with you?
So Josh Brucker did the second film that he did, the Illinois Valley Murder Tapes. That was his movie. I did the Alien one, and then Thomas Burke, who has done a ton of stuff for the found footage community. Tom did the like Screen Life stuff in between as kind of like the host. He did those segments.
That movie is, out of all your filmography, it's one of the scariest movies I think of your filmography that I've watched so far. From your aspect of the aliens, like aliens are already scary, but you made it more terrifying in it. But with Joshua in this mockumentary like crime thing, it's to already know that crime is scary, but the way like you all like put the story together and made it so real, like it was actually really a real movie that you were watching. Like at the very end, like I was having anxiety actually watching it. I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen, if there's any jump scares or anything, but it's absolutely really good. Like I hold that up there with the Tahoe Joe movies. Like that's some of my favorite movies that you make.
Oh, that's awesome. I love to hear that. And it was so fun because Josh wanted to do like a realistic, like you said, mockumentary crime thing. So he did that real slow build and the mystery. And I think it's great because I went for like a lot of jump scares and stuff in mine. So it's just a fun way to show, two different aspects of tackling horror. And I went for the loud kind of in your face stuff. And then Josh did that really subdued creeping dread. And I think it's the perfect way to do a double feature. So that way, people get really two very different things. And that way, if somebody's not really a big fan of one, they might be a fan of the other. It was a really fun project. It was really cool and we looked into it. We are the only ones and the first ones to ever do a found footage double feature. There's a lot of anthologies, but nobody had ever done an actual double feature of two feature length movies wrapped into one story. And so that was really, really cool to do it that way. And, it's why we came up with the whole split screen idea was two different filmmakers, different sides of the country. Josh was over there in Illinois and I'm over here in Nevada. And it was just fun to go at this thing and make our films about the same time and then kind of see what each one came up with for this collective, project.
Yeah. Because I agree with Dakota. That's why I had to throw in like one of the best alien jump scares since because that when they're in the abandoned thing, kind of raving it up a little bit, and then that pan down the little hallway there, and then when you're in the backyard, just aliens itself are scary, but when you throw that type of like jump right in your face and like you said, just loud boom, it hits you. And then after that, you get that loud in your face when it goes into the second part. It's just like, oh, that creeping on the back of your neck. Watching the second part, you're just like, okay, this it's so good. And it was definitely, like Dakota said, way up there as far as that. And I just wanted to tie in real quick your very beginning, talking about working at the video store and seeing the cover arts on VHS. Your cover arts on yours, like the split screen, the ghost with the hands and lightning bolts and everything like that, you could tell that you're a fan of the cover arts. I fucking love it. Your cover arts with the Summer He Died, not only with the orange and purple skeleton ones with the skateboards, but even the retro one where it's the all red with the emblem and everything like that. I dig it all. And it just, after talking to you and hearing your perspective and where you started to now, it all just kind of comes together and shows like it oozes throughout your work is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's just I make movies that I would have wanted to rent, as a kid. That's just kind of like my way of going about things. And I know a lot of it really it's got to be visually arresting as far as like the product you're going to put out there, the poster or whatever. So I always, try really hard to do all that. And distribution sometimes sucks because they'll have a problem with certain things and they'll make you switch some stuff. And the original Summer We Died poster was actually a still photo that I took of the three girls in front of this beautiful mural, and they're holding their skateboards and they're all flipping the camera off. And it's such a, it was so emblematic of the film, but distribution wouldn't let me put a poster out with the middle finger up. So I had to retcon that and do something else. I have a lot of fun with that. And, some of my upcoming stuff, there's some really, really cool art coming down the way with my future stuff too. I'm definitely continuing that trend.
So that is a good segue to go into Dillon. If you want to talk about some of your future projects, because I know on your Facebook, because I know I'm friends with you on Facebook, but I think you also put in the Tahoe Joe group that's on Facebook also about your new, is it kind of like a dinosaur type of movie that you're trying to make?
I wish, man. I'm such a Jurassic Park fan. Like, oh my gosh, that's my favorite movie of all time. Nothing will come close to that experience I had watching that movie for the first time. If I could have the money to put a dinosaur movie together, believe me, I would. That'd be a dream. But no, I'm doing a project called Primal Darkness. It is a hardcore found footage. I'm actually, for the first time, going to really stick to all of those kind of rules that everybody says about found footage movies. So it's going to be very much my Blair Witch as far as like really, really harsh edits, really, really raw footage. No music and stuff except, when warranted as far as like in the opening or whatever, because there's a little bit of like a little bit of a documentary aspect, but most of it's presented as if you were just watching clips from a found camera card. It's almost like it's being presented to like a jury as evidence. But we are keeping the details of that one, like plot wise and stuff, very, very secretive. It does have to do with being out in the Nevada desert, though, like way out there, secluded. And it's funny, Nick, that you brought up, all the stuff with the POV stuff, because a lot of this movie is actually shot from my point of view. And I do some pretty creepy stuff in this one. We did a lot of stuff at night out in the middle of nowhere. But I'm just keeping the plot like really, really secretive and mysterious, because I think the film sets up to go one way, and then when it ends, you're like, whoa, I did not expect this thing to veer the way it did and go in this direction. And I think it's best served for people to experience that, for the first time when they watch it. So super pumped about it, though. It is by far my most nerve shredding thing. It's the scariest thing. It's probably the most upsetting thing I've ever done. It's not like in your face gory, but there is gore. It pushed me to do my most hardcore acting as far as being deadly serious. This is not a movie that is, full of my humor and stuff like in the Tahoe Joe movies. Like, this is definitely one that I think builds a lot of tension as you're moving through it and trying to figure out where it's going to end up.
Absolutely awesome. Because
and then
when you said Blair Witch,
yeah, right. Like I really wanted to play with the idea of traditional found footage. I've always been kind of a punk filmmaker myself. It's like found footage, especially in those big found footage groups. I mean, people are purists, man. They have their idea of what makes those movies work, and they don't want music or they don't want this or that. They want it to be this really raw, immersive experience. So I've taken a lot of care in making it that, and using, Blair Witch and The Last Radio Broadcast and some of those original ones as a lot of inspiration and stuff. And I'm super stoked. But another thing I'm going to be doing, Dustin Tamplin has a found footage series out. The season 1 is on Tubi. It's called Midnight Feature, and it's 5 found footage episodes done by 5 different directors. And we're going to do a season 2, and I'm doing one of the episodes. I'm going to shoot it in a couple months. And just to give you a little bit of a hint, but to hopefully excite you, especially you, Goobs, I'm going back to aliens. So I'm excited to do another alien thing for sure.
Yes. I'm all about it.
Yeah, it's been a busy year. Been a very busy year, but a lot of really cool stuff. Next year, I've already got my big project planned. I think I'm only going to do 1 film next year, but I'm going to take a while to do it because it's a pretty big scale. It is going to be a full-blown love letter to 80s woods set slasher films. So, Friday the 13th and any of those slashers in the woods, I'm going to be paying a lot of homage to that. And it's not necessarily going to be the most serious thing. It's going to be really, really trying to pull all that stuff from the 80s into it. So it'll have your cornball stuff. It'll have your cliches. But I also have a very, very, very unique way that I'm going to kind of play the movie out. So about the halfway point, some real wild shit's going to happen. It's going to really start to kind of change it up. And I'll just say it's kind of Cabin in the Woods meets Unmasked, the Leslie Vernon story, meets Friday the 13th. It's meets Wrong Turn. Very much kind of an amalgamation of all those things. And I'm super stoked. It's called A Man in the Woods with an Axe.
Oh, I love that. If you need some stand-ins to take an axe, I'm sure me and Dakota can make our way to you if you need that.
Hey, I'm always looking to drop bodies in the woods, man. So we'll talk for sure.
I love that. It sounds like I said, you're a busy man. You've done so much stuff over the last year. And with the next couple things, I appreciate you taking the time, and now I have a lot more things to add to my watch list. I'll just say that. So
that's awesome, man. Yeah. Another one. I don't know if you guys have seen Ash Hamilton's Final Days.
I haven't. I know you do have a segment in there.
I do, and that's definitely that's me at my most scary until I did Primal Darkness. So definitely, when you watch that one, I did a segment called Grandma. That is, it's really serious and very, very dark and gory and creepy. And I think you guys will like to just see me take a totally different turn versus how I did a lot of my other stuff. Take kind of the creep factor of when I'm in the house with the alien and take that, but up it by like 10 with a psychotic grandmother in the house with no power.
Oh, wow. A little caveat to that. I am already terrified of old people in horror movies, so that one's probably going to hit even harder for me. So awesome. Be ready for the message after I watch that.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. There's a certain cheese grater scene that was way before Evil Dead did it, and I feel like we did it way better. So I'm super excited for you to check it out.
I want to say one thing because I've been thinking about this the whole entire time, and especially watching Tahoe Joe. I like where you guys take chances. A lot of movies with stunts, they play it safe. You guys don't play it safe. You get attacked by Tahoe Joe in part 2. I was like, this is getting like wild, and just knowing that you guys are filming at the same time while you guys are getting attacked, especially you and Mike with the whole entire cameras, and with you especially with the main camera. That just blows my mind, and it shows how good of not only a director you are, but just a filmmaker as a whole.
Thanks, man. This is funny. It's a perfect segue, but when I was doing Primal Darkness a couple weeks ago, I actually fractured 3 ribs and separated all the cartilage onto my sternum because we did do some stunts that went a little bit too hard, and I let a probably 190, 200-pound Green Beret tackle me pretty hard into some nasty rocks. And and get beat up pretty good by him. We wanted it to look real, so I let him go at it, and yeah, I definitely came out of that one beat up pretty good. So thanks for noticing.
Like I said, I appreciate you coming in, talking about just what kind of got you started, what keeps you going, and your future projects. And
if I can say real quick, man, one of the things that keeps me going is like you guys taking a time out of your schedule from watching all these big time movies that are going to be at Fantastic Fest and all that, but still giving guys like me, a moment to talk about it and watching my stuff. Like, it is really, really humbling. And I'm as big a fan of you guys making your content as you may be of my stuff. So I thank you guys too for watching my stuff. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't feel like some people were enjoying it and entertained by it. And I'm entertained by what you guys put out. So, really from the bottom of my heart, I thank you guys and I appreciate what you do so much. And you guys are great at what you do. So deserve to get that press pass. And I can't wait to see you guys, your pull quotes, on movie trailers and stuff someday, because I'm sure it's coming down the pipeline.
Appreciate that so much. Yeah, thank you so much.
Actually, there's two things I want to say real quick before we head off. And this is for you, Dillon. My mom, I told her about Tahoe Joe. I was going to watch the first two with her. I didn't get the chance to. It was a really busy schedule. But she's so excited to watch those two movies. I told her, I'm like, we're going to watch 1 and 2. And when 3 comes out, even though I already saw 3, I am going to pay that money to rent it so I can watch again and so she can experience that movie again.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. I think that's kind of brings everything together. Like what Mike and I like to do is working with close people. We work with a lot of our own family. Anybody that's seen those movies knows that we interject our family and stuff into it. And, my little boy makes a little cameo in part 3. And even my wife, for a quick second, she hates being in front of the camera, but I snuck a little shot of her in there. And Mike works with his fiance and her kids, his stepkids and stuff. And so I love that. I think that it just makes this whole thing worthwhile, man.
And the other thing I want to tell you is I know Tahoe Joe 3 releases on October 1st on Found TV. So by around that time, I won't bring you back on so we can deep dive into spoilers and everything and get like the whole aspect of certain shots. Like, what was your thoughts about the way you shot that scene and just the whole concept of the movie?
Yeah, I'd love to come back, man. We just to give everybody kind of an idea of our timeline. So it's going to hit Found TV first for about a month as in a rental. And then Mike and I are going to have wider distribution after that. So we'll be hitting up, the Amazons, Tubi, Plex, Fossum, Roku, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, once it goes wide and it gets out there, we'll definitely, we'll deep dive it. Cause I got a lot of stories about that. That'll be fun, to do, maybe we can even do some kind of a whole big collaborative thing with Colby and Ian and really get into it. I'll bring Mike on and do a Brady Bunch thing here.
Yeah, totally down for that. But once again, thank you so much, Dillon, for your time. And it's been a pleasure. For everybody watching, listening, we're going to have all of our links, also Dillon, the Horror Dadz, all their socials in the show notes. Definitely go give them a follow. Stay up to date with everything that they have going on. Stay up to date with what we got going on. Spotify, Apple, 5-star review, YouTube, like, subscribe, hit the bell. We appreciate you guys being here and throughout this journey. But until next time, we appreciate you guys. Dillon, one more time, thank you. And we will see you all next Tuesday.
Thanks, guys.
See you next Tuesday.